Alon, who appears more insane? John Gruden when he's doing his TikToks, or Andy Reid in this new State Farm Bundle Rooski commercial?
I love the Andy Reid commercials, so I gotta go with John Gruden. Because he's actually insane.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. Gruden looks demented. Andy Reid is just making me laugh. I don't know if anybody's seen this commercial, the new State Farm commercial, but I'm going to share it with everybody right now if I can pull it up here.
Oh, okay. I was going to pull it up as well.
It's just goofy, and I love how in the new commercials they make Andy Reid out to be like this kind of goofy, dumb coach, which he's not at all. But hang on, I'm already frozen. God,
Hey, Max Headroom over there.
What's that?
Your Max Headroom over there.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm trying to get this video open here. All right, now I can share my screen. Hopefully this doesn't screw up the internet as it's done the last few times here. Okay. This is the new State Farm commercial with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Plus, it's more fun to say. Bundle Rooski. Yeah. Bundle Rooski. Bundle Rooski. Bundle Rooski. Bundle Rooski too.
Just makes me laugh. It's absolutely ridiculous and silly, and it looks like Andy Reid is losing his mind. But that's just for comedic purposes as opposed to Gruden, who actually, I think, is losing his mind.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a lot to get to tonight, my man. We have a lot to get to. Crazy day in the NFL. Our show is jam-packed. Doubt it's going to be as big as Bussin' with the Boys today. Wow. Yeah, quite a show. Anyway, for just your opinion, man, Depop, Alon, we're here. And we're here together 2.5 years after the fact when you and I did a show talking about Davante Adams being traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. It was a surprise. Did not see that coming that day. I was actually listening to the podcast we did back right before I jumped on here, and we're both like shocked and amazed and like, oh my God, this is probably the best move the Raiders have done in quite some time. And you were talking about how if you want to go to Vegas, you got to be big. You got to go out and get some big name players. I was talking about how I don't see this being an Antonio Brown or a Randy Moss situation. I think it's going to be better than that. And it's not like Davante Adams was a bad character when he was a Raider, but it didn't pan out. And if you look back at all the trades that went down in the offseason of 2022, a lot of them didn't pan out. The big ones, I was going through it today, the big ones that I can remember, Russell Wilson got traded to the Broncos. That did not pan out. Deshaun Watson going to the Browns, still not panning out. Carson Wentz getting traded to the Commanders. Matt Ryan going to the Colts. And you can add Davante Adams going to the Raiders as part of this. Even though Davante had a very good first season with the Raiders with Derek Carr, it was terrible after that. So, yeah, I'm not surprised we got to this point. It's extremely disappointing. We woke up today after the news, or after the game last night. The Jets lose 23-20. I thought that a week ago this trade would get done on a Tuesday. And I guess maybe the whole Robert Saleh thing put things on hold for a week. But we woke up this morning and Davante Adams has been traded to the New York Jets for a conditional third-round pick. It could be a second-round pick if he gets first-team or second-team All-Pro, which I find highly doubtful at this point. He's already missed 3 games. Or if the Jets make the AFC Championship game. We'll see about that. But yeah, just like that, 2.5 seasons later, Davante Adams is a New York Jet. Not surprising, but what are your thoughts on this, Alon?
Yeah, not surprising. I mean, we've been thinking about something like this happening since last summer, really. And, as the rumors started to, not even rumors, just it's speculation after he requested to be traded of where he would end up going. The Jets always seem like the front runner with the Saints right there, kind of closely behind. But I think that Derek Carr injury just kind of spiked all possibility of that happening. it's fascinating he's going to the Jets, not because of the fact that he doesn't want to play with Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. He totally does. And even with the coach being fired, it's fascinating that he's going to the Jets because to me, it indicates that maybe winning immediately might not be the only thing that's driving him. It might be a comfortability kind of comfort kind of deal. He wants to be with a quarterback that he's experienced with. He wants to be with a quarterback that he knows is going to get him the ball. Aaron Rodgers is totally that. But I can't help but think that he's leaving one fire that's burning over here and going to another one where, the smoke's not out yet. Had they won, had they beat the Bills on Sunday night, right? Then, or Monday night rather, you could be talking about some different talking points, especially with how good Aaron Rodgers looked at points during that game. It was, to me, his best performance as a Jet, but still, it's not there yet. And you just wonder, like, they just fired their head coach, who I think is a pretty good head coach. And, with the interim with Ulbrich, he had them ready to play for the most part, but they still lost the darn game. So, Davante, he wants to go over there. That's fine. I think the Raiders got all they could back for him. It was pretty clear that, they weren't going to be able to get anything more than the third. And the fact that it's a conditional pick is kind of some icing on the cake, but I don't think they're going to make the AFC Championship. And with the fact that he's already missed 3 games, like you said, Derek, even getting second-team All-Pro is going to be extremely difficult. He'll need the Raiders would need other receivers across the AFC and the NFC to get injured. And you don't hope for that. It's just he's not going to be able to play enough games to accumulate the stats he would need to be an All-Pro, either first or second team. So the Raiders got out of it in a way. The Jets are going to, I'm assuming, try to restructure his contract or so they can keep him going forward.
They already have.
Oh, they already have. Okay.
Yeah,
so
they came out earlier today that he's restructuring his contract for the last 3 years.
There you go. So I saw a rumor that might happen. So I was in class all day since
No,
all
good.
So okay, so they already have done that. So they want to do that, but my big question is like, what is their succession plan? And is this an indication that he's going to play with Aaron Rodgers until Aaron Rodgers retires, and when Aaron Rodgers is done, he'll be done too? I also wonder that if it's a case of him being like, yeah, I've been in the league already for 8 years, and let's just say you get another 3 out of Rodgers, which is a lot, but let's say you get another 3 and he retires after an 11-year career. I don't know. If the Jets were in a better position, if they were a better team, then I could really say, wow, they made a huge move to not only get better, but to really make a push. But I mean, they're 2-4.
Yeah, I mean, you have to wonder about Davante going from 1, 2, and 4 team to another. I mean, usually when you make a trade and you're a receiver and you want to go to a better destination, you don't go to a team with the same record. Yeah. That being said, I will say the Jets look like they're going upwards in their trajectory while the Raiders are going down. Only by a little, but the Jets, they look better on Monday night. We'll get into the game a little bit later. And I think that it helped that the Jets were willing to take on all of his salary. So the restructuring obviously helped, but the Raiders' big sticking point was we do not want to be left with the whole bill. And the Jets, I guess at first were like, well, you could take some of it. And now they're like, no, we'll take the whole thing, which I think expedited this process. And then I saw Adam Schefter's report or article, whatever it was, on Saturday night saying that the Raiders could hang on to Davante Adams. I didn't believe that for a second. I thought that was just them, the Raiders, putting out feelers to the rest of the NFL, just being like, we haven't got what we wanted. Make us a better offer. And I thought like eventually this was going to happen. Like I said, before Robert Saleh got fired, I thought that trade was going to go down last Tuesday. And, I think they didn't want to be insensitive, even though they fired the man. But so then they trade him a week later. And, you have to wonder about the Raiders going forward. Like you brought up, Alon, I wonder about Davante Adams. What assurances does he have about Aaron Rodgers going forward? Because what is the Jets' future? But like after this season, they have to win with Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is not guaranteed another year with them. I don't think any of these, any of the coaches, Joe Douglas, nobody's guaranteed another season with the Jets. So I wonder why Davante Adams. I mean, I get it. Like, he wants to play with Aaron Rodgers. It sounds good on paper, but after this season, it's totally, as Aaron Rodgers put it once upon a time, a beautiful mystery. So that's what I wonder as far as the Jets standpoint. And, they have a lot more issues than just the receiving core. Even though, Aaron Rodgers, I thought kind of, threw Mike Williams on the bus. But then again, he needs to take accountability for what happened last night. As far as the Raiders, this all could have been avoided, in my opinion, if the Raiders had upgraded to get a better quarterback than Derek Carr after the 2022 season. I still think Davante Adams is on the team. I think that they didn't make it really appealing for him to be there. And I know that nothing's guaranteed in life. You sign contracts and you have to own the contract. I believe in that. But when you sign a contract under a idea that you're going to have a certain quarterback and a certain philosophy going forward, then you're willing to stick that out. When things change and things become less appealing, then you're like, well, why the hell am I here? It made sense for Davante Adams to sign a contract in 2022 when he had Derek Carr and Josh McDaniels, and they were making signings to get Chandler Jones, and everything looked like they were improving. And then when all that went to shit, Davante still had a good season in 2022, but when they let Derek go, it becomes less appealing. And then he got pissed off about Jimmy Garoppolo, and we all saw what happened on the Netflix show. And me and Steven talked about it this summer when the Netflix show came out, and everyone's initial reaction from the show was, well, Davante Adams wants to be traded. Dana Orlovsky went on ESPN the week that show came out and said, I think Davante Adams is going to trade to the Jets. And me and Steven were like saying on this podcast, well, that's just ESPN trying to conjure up some trade or some media speculation because they're, East Coast bias. They want Davante Adams on the Jets. So we thought it was bullshit. Even though we knew that this could happen. We're not stupid. We knew that this has been a rumor for quite some time. But I thought it was unnecessary at the time to bring this up. And then Davante Adams had to release a statement through his agent being like, I don't want to go anywhere. But it turned out all that was bullshit. And I think that me and Steven and everybody that, has Raider ties was just kind of being blinded by your love for the team or your old love for the team or whatever. And just being like, no, they'll make it work. I didn't know if they were going to make it work this season. I thought that maybe... I don't know. There never was a point where I thought like Davante is going to be extremely happy to play with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. But I thought that he would stick it out a little longer than this. I will say I didn't expect the whole hamstring thing. I was like, Davante Adams is ready to go. He's already in Florham Park and he's got the physical going. He's good to go. He's going to play on Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers on national TV. Funny how that works. I never expected that to happen. I never expected Antonio Pierce to either call him out to the media kind of secretly with the business decisions thing or, the social media. Like, I never thought any of that shit would happen with Davante. Not that it's his fault. I mean, the hamstring thing, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. But Antonio Pierce, we'll see about his future with the Raiders. I don't think he's acted like a professional head coach since he got the job. Officially this offseason. So, yeah, Davante is moving on to the Jets, and now the Raiders have to pick up the pieces once again. And it just feels like this team is rebuilding every 3 years. They did the whole rebuild after the 2016 season with Gruden. They traded away Khalil Mack. They traded away Amari Cooper. Then they bring in Josh McDaniels. And after Gruden, he had to go away. They tear that down. And now, with Antonio Pierce, it feels like they're doing it again. So it just feels like a lot of unnecessary rebuilds. So yeah, it's funny today too that Mark Davis, is at the owners' meetings and he kind of just like nonchalantly like, yeah, we traded away Davante Adams. No big deal. We traded away Davante Adams to get Tom Brady. Really? That's how we're looking at this thing? It's not the same. It's not the same. I know that Tom Brady coming over in a minority owner capacity is a big deal, but you can't poo-poo the fact that you had a premier wide receiver and you let him go. So I know I'm rambling here, Alon. I'm just disappointed. We'll go into the Tom Brady stuff a little bit more, but I'm just disappointed this didn't work out. I even bring up, when we did the podcast 3 years ago, Antonio Brown, Randy Moss. It's not going to be like that, and it did. It ended up that way. So it's just disappointing that once again the Raiders make a big move. Like I remember the press conference. Remember the press conference when Davante Adams was introduced? He was like, "I'm excited being a Raider. I grew up a Raider fan. I wanted to come here so my grandma could see me play." And the fact that he lost the love of that is just really disappointing. It makes you sick for me, a former fan, or if you're a fan right now, you want guys that want to be Raiders. Like I remember saying, Davante makes it cool to be a Raider. Like the Raiders, in my view, have always been cool. And despite however they looked on the playing field, they were cool. Their colors, the Raider attitude, the Raider image, it's always been cool to me. They're badasses. But the way that they handle business, it's not appealing to the players or the fans of how they go about things. So, yeah, I'm rambling, but yeah, it's just disappointing that Davante came home to his childhood team and then wanted to leave because they didn't make it fun enough for him.
Yeah. So first thing I'm going to address is the rumors starting in the offseason, this past offseason by ESPN, of him going to the Jets, wanting to be traded, and then him putting out, Davante Adams saying, "No, if I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't be here." Basically, I don't think that was a load of crap at the time. I mean, and I still don't. I think he meant that. I think once Gardner Minshew actually saw the field and started playing the way he was playing, Davante Adams probably looked at it as like, I'm 31 years old and I still have good seasons left in me. I can't deal with this quarterback situation. I will say this. I think had Aiden O'Connell won the starting job, not saying they'd be better, but had he been the starter out of the gate, I could see a scenario where Davante maybe stays a week longer than he already had, but he probably would get traded anyway. I brought up on our podcast when we talked when they acquired him. I brought up Javon Walker because that was the last big Green Bay receiver who came to the Raiders, and obviously it wasn't that situation. Javon couldn't play anymore, and Al didn't care. Also, it wasn't the Randy Moss situation, and it's closer to the Randy Moss situation than it is to the Antonio Brown situation. There's no commonality there. I think Davante really did try it. I think Derek Carr being benched, relieved of duty, whatever you want to call it, run out of town, that changed everything. I think the succession plan or the contingency was never there. Part of that you got to blame on Ziegler and McDaniels. Some of that also goes on the owner, Mark Davis, as well. But he's putting these GMs and coaches in a position to make those football decisions. So it's on their plate. It's 100% on their plate. This season, for them to not seriously address the quarterback position with anything other than a Band-Aid is not good. Gardner Minshew has not been good. That's why he's benched. And Aiden O'Connell is a backup quarterback from what we know right now. So they didn't go and do the second part of the equation, which is you get great wide receiver. Now you need at least decent quarterback, at least starting caliber quarterback. And they don't have that. So it's no surprise that Davante Adams was traded. Is it disappointing? Yes, in some ways, because that's a great player that the Raiders had to ship off. But I would say this. They have no one to blame but themselves regarding this situation. This wasn't Davante, even though he said, "I preferred to be traded," he wasn't forcing himself out the way that some other players do. This was really just look at the resources that the team has, specifically at the quarterback position. And he made an evaluation saying, not only am I not going to put up numbers with the quarterbacks we have in the room, but it doesn't look like long-term success. So at least I'm going to go somewhere where I'm familiar, not geographically, but with the quarterback and try to make something happen again while I still got time. Disappointing. The team got worse. There's no way that anybody can convince me that the team is better without him. Oh, we can't utilize them anyway with the quarterbacks we have. I don't care. If you get rid of a player of Davante Adams' caliber or good player, even a good player who's not all-time great like he is, you're getting worse by getting rid of him. So, yeah, it's a step back. I applaud the Raiders for taking the chance to do it. It's just the back end of it blew up in their faces when they got rid of Derek Carr and didn't have a real plan to do anything else. And that all falls on the GMs. Two now. One is on Ziegler and McDaniels because they were tied at the hip. And this one, I would say specifically all on Tom Telesco's plate because I know he was a new GM and it's not fun to come in as a new GM and try to restart everything and build it from the ground up. But there's no way that he didn't know that they needed a quarterback and Gardner Minshew would be the solution. I can't see that.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and I think Tom Telesco was put in a tough spot, and I wonder about their plans for the future. Is Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce on the same page? Is it really just Tom Telesco's show, and Antonio Pierce has to go with the flow? And also this is on Mark Davis. I think that he wanted to go to Vegas and he wanted to make things more exciting. And I totally get why they went. I don't have to agree with it, but I understand business-wise why they went. And nothing's really panned out for them. I know that you're happy that they're in Las Vegas, Alon, but I would say the success has been minimal. Just the one playoff appearance and all the moves they've made, and this one being the biggest by far, while they were the Las Vegas Raiders. And it didn't pan out. And you got Steelers fans kind of taking over that stadium. And I know you were telling me that it was a good 60.
Probably 50-50.
50-50. Still, that's not good.
No.
That's not good, especially for Steelers, given the rivalry with the Raiders going back to the 70s. You don't want that. The John Gruden thing, I know that was out of Mark Davis's control, but that was a huge PR nightmare. Just a lot of shit. And I know that getting Tom Brady in as a minority owner he thinks that it's going to help him. I know that was on, the table for a long time and it was official today. I'm surprised Tom Brady wants to do this, to be completely honest. And I don't know how he's going to be embraced by Raider Nation because he has one of the more notorious plays in Raiders history. It's right up there with Franco Harris getting the immaculate reception. Tom Brady fumbled the football. Every Raider fan feels that way. Most NFL fans feel that way. If you're a Patriot fan, you feel opposite. He's an enemy. His first playoff win was against the Raiders, and now he's running the organization along with Mark Davis. It just kind of feels like, would Al ever allow this? Hell no. This kind of feels like another fuck you to Al a little bit, in my opinion. I think that Mark has done things over the years. I'm not going to be totally biased here, but, bringing in Marcus Allen to light the torch, interviewing Mike Shanahan, firing my father, just a lot of things that I know the fans did not like, and he wanted to change the regime and everything. This move, I get why he wants Tom Brady around. Tom Brady is considered the greatest of all time, quarterback or player. I just don't. I wonder why Tom wants to do this. I get the broadcasting thing. He still loves the game and wants to be a part of it. I don't think he's primarily, that great on TV yet, but it takes time. But he's restricted as a broadcaster because of this. He can, he could be an owner. Go ahead, but you can't talk to the teams. You can't talk to the coaches. It's going to be weird if he does a Raider game. It's going to be perceived pretty interesting. So I wonder about that. And it just kind of feels like he's brought in to be kind of a little bit like a Buster Posey type, where he's not going to have the same control because Tom Telesco will be the guy running the ship there. But when I saw the statement today that he's going to kind of run football operations, I'm like, well, shit. I mean, you might as well give Tom Brady the title of president of football operations then. Because it sounds like he's going to try to revamp the structure of the organization and what he wants to do. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if he's going to pick the players. He'll probably talk to the quarterbacks that they're evaluating in the offseason for the draft. And I know that Tom Brady has a good relationship with Shedeur Sanders. I know that Mark Davis, every photo I see, he's hanging out with Shedeur Sanders. So would not be the least bit surprised if that's who they're going for. And Deion Sanders talked about his love for the Raiders. I wouldn't be surprised by any of that stuff. It just feels weird to me. Tom Brady, the same day that they trade away Davante Adams, and that's the quarterback they wanted to pair him with when they got rid of Derek. That was the number one plan. Was Josh McDaniels is going to convince Tom Brady to still play football, leave the Buccaneers, and go join the Raiders. And Tom Brady retired. So then they went to another option, which was Jimmy Garoppolo, which, God, I mean, it sounded like Aaron Rodgers wanted to come to the Raiders, and they said no. I think Josh McDaniels didn't want to deal with his ego. So we're here now. I've said what I've said about Davante. I find it extremely disappointing, but not surprising. We've thought about this for a long time. But what are your thoughts, Alon, on Tom Brady coming over as a minority owner today officially?
I love it. In this aspect, the organization got better. The team on the field didn't get better, but the organization got better. I will say this about Mark Davis. I think he has done everything in his power to put this team in a position to win, especially since being in Las Vegas. He has spent so much money getting facilities built, trying to land big free agents or trades. He is really trying. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. I don't. And maybe that makes me a shill, but I don't work for the Raiders or anything, but I respect what he does. I've met him a few times at boxing matches. He's been very personable to me and my father, like super, has been great in my interactions, the two that I've had with him. I don't know. I don't have a bad thing to say about him. I will say this. Bringing Tom Brady. So I love the job that he's done in Las Vegas. I wish for him that he would see more success with it. Tom Brady coming on as a pseudo head of football operations kind of guy. That was what I always wanted to know, is if his buy-in was going to be purely financial in terms of, hey, this is a long-term investment that I can then pass on to my family or things like that. Or am I really going to try to get involved? From what the reports look like, and even the statement that he put out, it looks like he's really going to try to get involved. I agree with you, Derek. He's going to probably talk to quarterbacks. He's trained with Shedeur Sanders since Shedeur was, a high school kid, I think, maybe even earlier. So I think the organization got stronger. What I don't know is this. Does Tom Brady being there have any influence, especially as being a 10% owner with his ownership group? What kind of influence does that look like over GM decisions? What does it look like over coaching hire decisions? That's really the question I want to know. Is he going to be very much like hey, here's the structure we want to have, but then fill in the pieces according to like maybe the best fit for what, who we think is the best at the time? Or is he going to come in like a hammer and everything's a nail and going, okay, this is the kind of coach we have to have. This is the kind of players we have to have. That's what I wonder about this, because I can't remember there's never been a time in the NFL where the greatest player of all time has come in and become an owner of the team and then gone on to run football operations. So there's no blueprint for this.
Yeah, it's weird. I wonder if Brady is going to find a love for running a football team more than calling football games.
That could definitely happen too, because he might go, you know what? I have more fun doing the football side of things, and I could care less about the money on the Fox side.
I mean, that's good money because he's the highest paid, color analyst in football right now from a TV standpoint, or any standpoint actually. But to also have yourself related to an actual team, like I can't imagine. I don't think Fox is going to do a lot of Raider games this year, but if he ever did a game where he had to criticize Antonio Pierce, how's that going to look?
Well, and that's a good point. And then the other teams have to be going just nuts over this, going, no. And I know that was already one of the big, sticking points on this was how much access is he going to have to teams if he's actually an owner / doing a broadcasting job? Yeah. What kind of behind the scenes things is he going to get a look at? So to me, him buying this, I'm kind of leaning, and the things you're saying, Derek, is that maybe he's not too long for the whole broadcasting thing.
I don't think so. I think that I mean, he had time to be an owner down the line, but because they approved this, I wonder if he's going to see the criticism that he's not very good on TV and say, you know what, I'd rather be the man in charge. Like I'm sure Buster Posey would have been fine going into broadcasting to be an analyst, but he wants to run the show. And I kind of get the same vibe from Brady. I wouldn't be surprised if in time he becomes the president of football operations over Tom Telesco. Like, I would not be the least bit surprised about that. I think he's going to try to do his damnedest as a, color analyst on Fox. But if he doesn't improve and he gets more of a kick out of, I mean, maybe it's just an off-season job. Maybe he's just with the Raiders in the off-season and then he does TV the rest of the way for the actual playing season. But it just seems weird to me. Like, I know there's some analysts out there that are scouts for other organizations, but to be affiliated with a team and then I'm going to, this weekend, like Tom Brady works for the Raiders. This weekend, he's going to do a game with the Chiefs and Niners, two of the Raiders' most hated rivals. I can't imagine that, and he won't be allowed, but like for him to go to Levi's and like comment on this game, it just seems weird to me. So if he can manage it, by all means. I just think it's very weird to have Tom Brady be affiliated with the Raiders. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah. No, who would have thought that the guy who really, I mean, I grew up a Raider fan, obviously, but man, did my fandom really get shock and just a shock to the system in the worst way possible on the Tuck rule. And he's at the center of it. Yeah. And, maybe he's coming back to make me happy one day.
If he does a press conference where he's introduced as minority owner, he needs to admit that it was a fumble.
Yeah.
And also, like Richard Seymour, Richard Seymour comes along too. Like, what's going on with all these Patriots guys? Like, I know that they wanted, they had McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, but like, there's so much Patriot stuff going on now. And Richard Seymour, I don't think of him as a Raider. I think of the 2 sacks he had on week 1 against the Chargers when the Raiders just traded for him. But I don't think of him as a Raider either.
I loved Richard Seymour as a Raider. He was a fun one. It was fun to have him and Tommy Kelly. But no, he's a Patriot.
No, he's a total Patriot. I mean, I think of him having those 2 sacks, and I think of him just totally just cold clocking Ben Roethlisberger in a game.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he just shoved him. I was like, Jesus, Richard, what the hell's that? Jesus. Yeah, so the Raiders have a lot of decisions to make. Where do they go forward now? I think that Aidan O'Connell is going to start the rest of the way. We'll talk about the game that happened on Sunday, but Jacoby Myers is their number 1 right now. I think they have a lot of evaluations to make of the roster. We'll see if Antonio Pierce is more than just a one and done. I mean, it seems like he was good for the time being last year when he had to take over for Josh McDaniels, and now it's just different. He's got more distractions. Davante doesn't want to be there. He's dealing with a quarterback situation that's not fantastic. So yeah, it'll be different, and there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be available this offseason that may be more appealing than Antonio Pierce, who has little coaching experience, head coaching experience. So I ask you this, Alon. They made this move today with Davante, and I don't think they're going to make any other moves, but you have to think about the future and who's currently on the roster, and the biggest name is Max Crosby. And Steven and I have debated in the past, is he better than Khalil Mack? And I think it's different. I think that Khalil Mack was a fantastic player with the Raiders, obviously Defensive Player of the Year, All-Pro, and I thought at one point the best defensive player in football. I thought he was better than Aaron Donald at one point than Aaron Donald took over. And I thought that his skill set was unmatched in this league. I thought that he was doing things that we haven't seen since the likes of Lawrence Taylor. And I know that he never had the sack numbers like that, but just of the freakish talent he had. Like when he went to Chicago, you saw it.
What about the turnovers that Khalil Mack created? Maybe he didn't always have the sacks, but an interception or so.
Yeah.
Every couple
the pick
seasons.
sixes.
Yeah.
I mean, the most impressive thing to me probably was when he lifted that Bucks offensive lineman with just one bicep,
Yeah.
and then just shook him. Um, but Max Crosby has definitely, you know, exceeded expectations as what round pick was he? Fourth, fifth?
I believe he was a 4th-round pick.
Yeah.
4th or 5th, yeah.
He's been the best defensive player for the Raiders for a while now. He got a contract extension. He is, yeah, like I said, the face of the franchise, and he put his career on the line. This offseason he went on his podcast and said, if Mark Davis does not make Antonio Pierce the head coach, I will demand a trade. And he got what he wanted. So now he has to pick up the pieces going forward. He has to be the leader of this team, and we saw him on Sunday get into it with his linebacker coach, Mike Caldwell.
Yeah.
Pushed him. And we don't know the whole context of that. He later on said, like, Mike Caldwell is my guy. So there's nothing there. It was kind of a love tap. And, things happen in the heat of the moment. Not a good look, but I don't think it's it's not worse than, Travis Kelce, pushing Andy Reid around in the Super Bowl. But I do wonder about the future of the Raiders. And there's a lot of rumors going around right now with Aiden Hutchinson being out for the season after a broken leg. Terrible for the Lions. Now they need another pass rusher. And there's not a lot of options out there. There's Hassan Reddick, but we'll get to that a little later. I don't think the Jets can really trade him to another NFC team that might bite him in the ass, given that if they do that, then the second round, it becomes a second round pick for the Eagles next year, because that was a stipulation with the trade. So now you have to think about what are the options for the Lions, and what are the Raiders trying to do for the future. And they might be in a better position to get a quarterback this year. Like, we'll see on paper how bad they are. But maybe you want to guarantee that you'll get a quarterback in the first round, as opposed to last year where if they ended up with Michael Penix, maybe Davante Adams is still on the team. Who knows? But I thought about this, and I think I would do it. If the Lions offered the Raiders 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby, and that we're not just doing 1 and a third or 1 and a second. No, it has to be 2 first-round picks. If the Lions offered 2 first-round picks to the Raiders for Max Crosby, I think I would make that deal.
I would say that's a starting point.
Okay.
I think you have to keep something. You have to have a cornerstone of your franchise, even if you're a bad team. And there's just not much that I think Mark Davis would sign off on a trade, giving Max Crosby away. And this is 100% in conjunction with the fact that what happened with the Khalil Mack deal.
I know.
So you don't want to make the same mistake twice. And John Gruden and the team, they were able to basically convince the organization, okay, let's get all these picks from a Khalil Mack trade, and then none of the picks are still on the Raiders. Colton Miller, I don't even think was one of those picks either. So if he was, he's on.
No, it was prior to that.
Yeah, it was prior to that. So you don't want to make that decision again. So I don't think they would. I think though, Derek, 2 first-round picks in consecutive years would be the starting point.
Okay.
The starting point. And it would probably take a lot more than that. And not just money in terms of paying the rest of his contract. I mean, I think the asking price is so high that even a team like the Lions, who have real aspirations right now and need a defensive end because of Aiden's injury, I don't even think they could offer enough.
So what would be the point where you would sign off on that deal?
I mean, you're looking at, in addition to the 2 first-round picks and taking the finances off the books, I would say you're looking at another 3 picks. Not first-rounders, just I think
5 picks total?
I think the Raiders would say, you give us 5 picks, and then maybe we'll consider it. I don't think he's movable for them, Derek. I think they see him as invaluable in a lot of ways, and whether that's right or wrong, I think they see him as he is uniquely valuable to them.
Yeah,
and it would take just a fortune to do that, and I just don't think teams are going to offer that.
I get that, and believe me, I know I'm being hypocritical because I was very critical of the Khalil Mack trade. I thought it was dumb. I thought that, and that was just based on money. I thought that they could have signed Khalil Mack going forward, because I thought that they could have. Like, I thought it was bullshit that Gruden was like, we can't pay the quarterback and the pass rusher. Many teams are doing that now. The Lions sign every player on their roster right now, so they could have done it. They just didn't want to, or they were financially poor at the time. They weren't in Vegas yet. They were still in Oakland, and they didn't have the money to do that. I understand that trading away Max Crosby would be detrimental to the organization because you have nobody right now, or you wouldn't have anybody at that moment. You're now down to just him. You thought you were getting so many good players. You just have Christian Wilkins now basically as your face of your franchise. He's not
Bowers.
Brock Bowers. My thing is, though, when they traded away Khalil Mack, they had Derek Carr, and I thought they always would have keep Derek. I never thought they traded away Derek to go draft a quarterback the next year. They used those picks on Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Abram, and Cleveland Farrell. All did not pan out. Josh Jacobs was the best one, but they let him walk in free agency. So I get that. I think, though, in this league, we're seeing it right now. You need a quarterback to win, and you just need a quarterback to compete. And the Raiders thought they could get by with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. You really need to get a quarterback. Otherwise, you're not going to be a great team. You're not. And I wonder if they need to get a quarterback and a coach together, because I don't know about Antonio Pierce going forward. That's a conversation for another day. But yeah, if it is 2 first-round picks, and who knows what's going to happen this season, where they finish, they could be worse than last year. Probably will be if I had to, give it a prediction. I would do it because then you guarantee yourself that at least you have the opportunity. You're going to have 3 first-round picks. 2 first-round picks. The Raiders had 3 because of Amari Cooper. They traded away for a first-round pick as well.
Mm-hmm.
But at least you have the opportunity to package something together to may go up in the draft. You also think about like the worst teams of football right now, the Patriots. They got Drake May. They're not drafting a quarterback. Panthers, I don't know.
They're getting a quarterback.
I mean, they might. They might move on for Bryce Young. Jaguars, they're not moving on from Trevor Lawrence. They're not doing that. Bengals, not moving on from Joe Burrow. So the Raiders might be in a good position to move up in the draft to get a quarterback. And I don't think they can fuck around this time around. They need to do it. They need to get a quarterback this offseason. So if trading Max Crosby means you're able to do that, then yeah, I would go for it. It might be a desperate move to land a quarterback, but I think it's more desperate for the Lions right now to try to win a Super Bowl. So I understand you want to build pieces going forward, and pass rush is so hard to find. I mean, the Raiders invested in getting Tyree Wilson a couple years ago, and that's not panning out. So I know it's not easy. But I just think that they got lazy. They thought they could get by without addressing the quarterback position. I think this helps you with that. So I understand it would piss off a lot of fans. But, yeah, if the Lions gave you 2 first-round picks, I would do it.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. If I was the Raiders, I wouldn't move off of Max Crosby. Still relatively young. He only seems to be getting better. He impacts every play that he's out there. I don't know. He would be. It'd just be so difficult to find a replacement for him. But yeah, they do need a quarterback. So if the end goal is getting a quarterback, and if that's the thought that that's what will make them competitive in the long run, then that's a decision for the people who make those decisions to say, okay, well, we'll get rid of an elite defender to get a quarterback. I don't think they will do it. And I know if I was in that position, I wouldn't do it either. I think the Raiders are going to be in a decent enough position in this upcoming draft to get a quarterback no matter what. But I do agree with you here, Derek. They have to be willing to give up assets to move up. Even if, let's just say they're the 5th spot, right? They have to be willing to give up assets to move up to the 4th or the 3rd spot.
Or even 1.
Or even it's so hard to get a team to move off of 1. But especially if that team doesn't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
But like last year's draft, none of those first 3 teams were gonna move. They just weren't.
Yeah.
And I think the Raiders, for whatever reason, thought that there would be a guy available, and that guy being Michael Penix, and he wasn't. But just because it didn't work out for you waiting one time doesn't mean that, oh, well, it'll work out next time. No, you should be very aggressive in trying to move up and get a quarterback. There's a group of 3 or 4 pretty good quarterbacks in this class. Get one of them and see how it works. But yeah, I think the asking price is just so high from a Raider standpoint of moving off of Max Crosby that they're not going to do it. And I wouldn't do it either.
No, I mean, you're probably right. You're probably right that they won't do it. I just think that given the Lions situation, you might be able to, get them desperate enough to make this move, and the Raiders might be desperate enough to make the move as well. I get it. You need players to go forward for the next regime or whatever thing you're doing right now, whatever this is. If this is a rebuild or a competitive rebuild, I get it. You want pieces in place. And Max Crosby's a very good player. He's right up there in sack numbers, AFC, all pros, all that stuff, Pro Bowls, Defensive Player of the Year contention, stuff like that. I get it. But sometimes you need to make those moves if you want to take the next step. And they're not winning with Max Crosby right now. I know it's kind of like the Khalil Mack thing, but I would consider it just so they're put in the best position going forward. And I understand hanging on to him too. I totally get that. It's hard to find pass rush. So they may be bad enough this year where they can get a quarterback. And I think that there'll be teams that are worse than them. I don't think they're going to end up with the first overall pick. But I think there'll be teams that are worse than them that may already have quarterback, position solidified. So maybe they can move up to trade up to get a quarterback. Because I think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks available in this draft. I know you're saying 3. I think there's going to be more than that, Alon. I think there's going to be quite a lot of names, and I think we're going to think of them a little more highly than this past draft, in my opinion. I think you're going to like Jackson Dart and all these guys we were talking about, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Carson Beck,
Drew Aller.
I don't know about Drew Aller in the first round, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of names.
No, for me, the reason I say 3 or 4 is that's the amount that I really like, and that if I was a GM,
I got you.
Get. But no, there's
people will reach.
I think the people do reach, and I think the era of this is a quarterback light draft. I think that era is so over. I think every year there's decent to good quarterback prospects in college football now.
Yeah.
There just is. There's too much. There's so much passing, and there's so much film on all these guys that every team who needs a quarterback can go, we could make it work with this guy. Just depends if you develop him or not. So I think that's the new thing. So it could be that the first 10 picks of every draft are going to be a minimum of four quarterbacks taken now every year.
Would not be the least bit surprised about that. Before we actually talk about the games that were played this past Sunday, I want to bring up another trade that went down today. Former Raider Amari Cooper goes to the Buffalo Bills for a 3rd-round pick. And when I saw this move, I was like, ooh, I like this a little bit better than Davante going to the Jets, because I don't know what to make of Davante going to the Jets. With Amari going to the Bills, I mean, shit. Like, I know the Jets were like, all right, we lost the game, but you know what? We're going to win today. We're going to trade for Davante Adams. And then the Bills are like, all right, we'll one-up you. We'll go out and get Amari Cooper. I think that's a great move. I was talking about it with my dad today. I saw him in the studio at KMBR. He was like, I don't think Amari could play anymore. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think that Amari's just was unmotivated. He was told before the season started in training camp that the Browns are willing to trade him to get Brandon Ayuk. And he sent out a cryptic message, and he didn't seem motivated to play with Deshaun Watson. I guess the rumor is he was not a fan of Deshaun Watson, didn't like playing with him. So now he, an upgrade in Josh Allen. I think Amari's gotten used to the cold. I wonder how he's going to enjoy Buffalo. Some people don't like it. But I think that's the perfect spot for him. I think that right away he's the number 1 guy, and I think they already had good pieces. The scheme was good with Buffalo, but they need a number 1 guy. So I think Amari, will be that guy for them, and yeah, I think it's a solid move.
When I saw this come over the wire, coming over the wire now, Amari Cooper traded to the Bills. I loved it. I was like,
wait, is this the 1960s? What are you talking about?
I said the wire, so I was like, wait, that no one uses that term anymore.
Extra, read all about it. Coop to Buffalo, everyone.
Yeah, so I have to get Conan O'Brien to do that voice, but yeah, no, it's such a good pickup for them. And you said it best. They won the game last night, and then they win again by doing that. Josh Allen needed a real legitimate like super weapon on the outside. He's got one now, Amari Cooper. I always have liked Amari Cooper. I thought he was awesome in Dallas. This version of Deshaun Watson that he'd been playing with, just it wasn't getting it done. In a lot of ways, it's very similar to what kind of happened with Davante Adams in Las Vegas. It's, oh my gosh, I'm in a situation where there's no quarterback. And the crazy thing about it is they gave up so much money and just resources to get Deshaun Watson, and he is a shell of himself. So yeah, good for Amari Cooper, good for the Bills. To me, like, if anything, it just makes it that much more evident that the Bills are not only going to run away with that division eventually. I mean, they create a little more separation for themselves, which they'll need to do. But I mean, that's like a Super Bowl move, and that is something that that's the deal with the Bills. There were people saying, "Oh, maybe Davante Adams could go to the Bills. Maybe the Bills would be interested in him." Well, they got one of those people was Mike Florio, actually, and for all the big Mike Florio fans out there, but yeah, they got Amari Cooper, who is not as good, but pretty damn good in his own right, and that's the kind of move that signals we're going all in for a Super Bowl because we feel like we have every other piece taken care of. So good for Josh Allen. I wonder how long it'll take them to kind of connect, but the good thing for Amari Cooper is this. He's great at finding open space. Josh Allen's wonderful at keeping plays alive. So even if a Cooper is not totally up to date on what the playbook is and the verbiage, they'll be able to find each other pretty quickly, I would assume.
Yeah, I think so too. It took a while. I mean, not actually. You know what? I want to say it took a little bit of time for Dak and Amari to get clicking together when he got traded during the 2018 season. And I think that Amari, he will not be outspoken like Stephon Diggs and demand the football. I think he'll get it because he's the number one in that offense right now. But yeah, I think a little bit of time, him and Josh will be clicking. And they got a good running game going too with Ray Davis. So I think, and James Cook when he's healthy. I think the Bills are in a good spot right now.
Ray Davis was impressive last year.
Yes, he was. We'll definitely get more into the game later on. But before we talk about the games, I want to finish up with Hassan Reddick, who going over everything. Last week, Woody Johnson, when he fired Robert Saleh, was asked about Hassan Reddick, and he was just like, "This has got to be the weirdest hold that I've ever seen." Hassan, show up. Just show up, and we'll love you. And then, shortly after that, CAA, that represents Hassan Reddick, fires him. When I saw that, I was like, holy shit. And then someone tweeted out, I forget who it was, a Jets writer being like, this has always been Hassan Reddick's choice. This was never his agents telling him to do this. And if that's the case, these agents should have fired Hassan Reddick a long time ago. Good Lord, this guy doesn't know how to make good decisions.
Do you know who his new agent is?
Drew Rosenhaus. Next question.
It's Drew Rosenhaus.
But when I saw that last weekend, I think it was Tory Dandy was his original agent who represented a lot of wide receivers. But no agent ever tells you, hold out the whole season, lose millions of dollars. And Hassan Reddick was like willing to stand on that. And then his agent was like, you're insane. So he cut him. And then Drew Rosenhaus signs him and he says, all right, we got to show up. We actually got to do this thing. So Drew Rosenhaus is finally, talking some sense into Hassan Reddick. Supposedly he's going to go meet with the Jets. And they're giving them a little bit of a window to seek a trade because it sounds like Hassan Reddick was offered a good amount of money for this season. He would still be a free agent next season, but he was willing to, the Jets were willing to give him a contract that would take care of all of the fines he's accumulated from training camp, and he would be paid pretty well for this season. But he said no. He wants a multi-year contract, multi-millions, obviously. So the Jets are going to give him a little short window to seek a trade. But if I was another team, I'd be like, I'm not trading him. I can't rely on him right now. Now, the team that makes the most sense is the Lions. But from what I read, it sounds like the Eagles put a thing in the trade proposal where if the Jets end up trading him to another NFC team, then their third round pick becomes a second round pick, and the Jets don't want to give up another second round pick. So if I had to guess, I'm assuming that no one's gonna be willing to trade for Hassan Reddick, and he'll go back to the Jets and make them even better. And finally, some sense will be talked into him. But I found the whole thing just fucking insane. More insane than John Gruden's TikToks and Andy Reid's State Farm commercial. I'll say that.
Bundle-rooski.
Bundle-rooski. Bundle-rooski. Bundle-rooski do. Sorry.
I also really like the Andy Reid commercial, the previous one, where it's give me some of those nuggies. Like, I really like the idea of him sitting at a fast food joint, just stealing other people's food.
Or him running mustaches on people's faces while they're sleeping.
Yeah, all that stuff's so good.
Andy Reid, comic genius.
Comedy gold. I do wonder about Hassan Reddick, because that's a piece that would instantly make them better if you ever saw the field. There was a statement put out, I believe, I forget who it was, who said, if anybody's going to figure out a way to end this holdout, it would be Drew Rosenhaus. So I find that fascinating. Leave it to him to jump on this and try to fix it. But I think Rosenhaus did actually meet with the Jets before the game on Monday night to try to figure out ways to resolve this. CJ Mosley played like 9 or 10 snaps yesterday for the Jets. So he's back and will be back and more capable and more healthy. Davante Adams now coming over. I wonder if this kind of influx of talent and big person, like, alpha kind of superstar kind of guys, will encourage Hassan Reddick to just say, okay, I'm going to come play. We got some good players. Like, it's not like they didn't already have good players on defense. They did. And they have Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and now he's got his guy. So I wonder if Hassan Reddick will go, okay, maybe we could win some games. I'll go play.
Yeah.
But this whole thing was never about winning games. It was always about the money he won.
Yeah.
So what do the Jets do? Do they just say, we'll give you even more money if you come play? I mean, what kind of precedent does that set? That's horrible.
I think they stand on the offer they gave him originally and say, look, we have a good offer for him. It's already too late in the season to be talking about this shit. So either you come play for us right now, we'll give you that deal that we offered you before, or you can sit out the whole season at this point.
Do you think the pressure would be he might start feeling pressure though from some of these other guys like Davante Adams specifically?
No, I think
coming over there.
No, he has no connection to anybody on that team right now.
None. Yeah.
So I think that Drew Rosenhaus will say, Hassan, this is where we're at right now. You got to play. Go earn your free agency next year. And he'll join a team that's made a ton of changes so fast in the season. I never seen a team go for it as much as they are. Like, they're on Rams level a couple of years ago when they traded for Von Miller, but they didn't fire Sean McVay at the same time. This is a lot of changes. They changed their offensive coordinator. They changed their head coach. They traded for Davante Adams. They're probably getting Hassan Reddick coming in. Like, I'm not going to say like the whole thing's going to flip and they're going to be a winning team all of a sudden, but Jesus Christ. It's a lot of changes. And I love Woody Johnson's quote today when he was being interviewed at the owners' meetings. Someone was like, people think that you're, going down the tubes right now and it's all over for the Jets. And his response was, thinking's overrated. And he gave a whole spiel about how I kind of want my team to operate like Ricky Bobby. The movie Talladega Nights? Don't think, you're a driver. Just go. I'm like, oh, Woody. Man, just stick to making soap. All right, let's actually talk about some football here. So, Raiders, I guess their last game without Davante Adams will be the Carolina game. So they've played 3 games without him. He wasn't in that game. So what is it? 2 games without him? The Denver game.
They played 3 games without him.
Oh, that's right. The Browns game,
yeah,
the Denver game, and now this game against the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you and I picked the Raiders to win this game. I changed my pick the night before when I saw that Jacoby Myers is out of this game. Yeah. And their offensive weapons were just going to be, Zamir White was going to play in this game either. So it was Brock Bowers, DJ Turner, Trey Tucker.
Christian Wilkerson.
Yeah, just not a lot of options for the Raiders out there. And I'm not surprised that the Steelers beat them down. I'm surprised by the offensive output by the Steelers, 32 points. I do wonder about the Raiders' defense. I do wonder if they're as good as we thought they were. But it's also tough when the offense is not doing jack shit and you punt it back enough, you get tired. So I get that. I will say this, and you and I were texting, and I'll let you speak on this as well. There were two brutal penalties in this game. Two roughing the passer calls that were bullshit. They were. And, we saw enough dumb penalties in the Jets-Bills game the night after. But in this game, the two penalties, the Kason roughing the passer on 3rd and 18 and the Matthew Butler penalty on the Diablo interception, Divine Diablo, those were ridiculous calls. I know that the NFL is all about safety now, and you can't put your whole body weight on a player that's roughing the passer. I find the penalty to be absolute bullshit. Because how could you prevent your body weight going on a man? Now, I know that was all because Anthony Barr a couple of years ago landed on Aaron Rodgers and broke his collarbone. But we can't have that every time. It's just impossible for defenders to stop what they're doing to not put their whole body weight on a player. So I thought those penalties were dumb, but they weren't the reason why they lost the game. But I'll let you speak on the penalties, Alon.
I would say the penalties were atrocious. Those two roughing the passer ones. Yeah, it's not the reason they lost the game. The reason they lost the game is because they couldn't score after the first drive. But penalties, some of them, wiping out an interception when a guy, Matthew Butler, who, is rushing Justin Fields just fine. And then if you watch the replay, he puts his hands out in front of him as he's landing to make sure his whole body weight doesn't really get on him. And he still gets called for it. The other one, Fields still has a ball in his hand. It's still being released. Those weren't great. Okay, so that's the rule, right? If you're going to call it, you're going to call it. Calling Jackson Powers Johnson for an illegal man downfield on what would have been a scoring play was almost equally as horrendous, maybe worse. And I know they're emphasizing that this year with the, offensive offsides / having linemen downfield. But if you look, he's within a yard. I mean, maybe letter of the law, but that never gets called. So that was pretty bad. The officiating in that game was horrible, I thought, for both teams. I thought the Steelers got the worst end of it early, and the Raiders really got the bad end of it in the second half. Last night, Jets and Bills, I wasn't pleased with the officiating there either.
No, that was atrocious.
I don't know what the answer is. It's maybe it's an evergreen topic in sports talk radio or podcasts, how bad officials are. But man, they were bad Sunday and Monday.
No, they were. They totally were. And yeah, I believe that the Raiders had a few bad calls. The illegal man downfield, it's debatable. I mean, I saw our guy, Ted Wynn, put a picture up on Twitter and said he was downfield. And I know it's just...
He's looking back at the line of scrimmage, though. He's lost in space kind of deal. It was
that one's debatable. I think the Kason and Butler roughing the passer penalties are... I mean, I don't blame the refs because that's what the league has instituted. Those calls, they're not fun. They're dumb. I don't know what defensive players are supposed to do. Are you supposed to just sack the quarterback? Don't put your body weight on him. But I mean, you saw it against the Giants and Bengals. I want to say there was a play where, who was it? I forget. Azeez Ojulari doesn't finish a sack on Joe Burrow, and he keeps running because he doesn't want to get the penalty. I mean, that's what we're living in now. I remember years ago, what was it? Matthias Kiwanuka didn't bring down Vince Young on a play, and he was able to run for a first down and score. In perfect example here from Ernie One, Siragusa. Rich Gannon was taken out of a game in the 2000 AFC Championship game. His entire 345-pound frame pulverized Rich Gannon into the ground. There was not a flag called on that. We're just living in a new day and age of football, which I will always enjoy football, no matter what. But I kind of agree with Aaron Rodgers. If you're going to go along the lines of all these penalties, it turns into a sarcastic ball. So there needs to be a common ground there on what do we, like it needs to be fun for the fans and not just a flag palooza. But first and foremost, that did not mean that the Raiders lost the game because the referees took it from them.
But it definitely helped in the score being so lopsided. I will
It
say
did.
that
It
because those are two drives right there that are killed. One via interception, and the other one's going to turn into a punt. So, it just from a fan of football standpoint, and I think you'll agree with this, Derek. It's horrendous to watch. You think you see a great defensive play, but then you got to remember, oh wait, hold on, the quarterbacks are in bubble wrap. Sometimes they're not. It's not consistent. It's a little more consistent this year, I would say. They're really penalizing everything. But I even heard Antonio Pierce say he answered a question in a presser the other day about the roughing the passer, and he goes, "Well, how do you teach these guys to do it?" He goes, "Well, kind of have to teach them to secure the sack, and then as they're going to the ground, to like roll over to one side or the other." And I'm like, how the hell do you even do that? How are you going to the ground with someone while tackling them and then go, okay, we're almost at the ground. Now I'm going to release and roll over to the other side. It's just.
And even if you have them in the grasp while you do that, like a stop, drop, and roll with them, that's going to be a penalty too because you force their body in the ground. Now you're rolling on top of them.
Yeah. So, but the goal is you're supposed to let go as soon as they're going down and then roll. And like you can't.
It's stupid. It is.
It's so bad.
But the truth is, the Raiders totally got outplayed in that game.
Yeah. If we want to talk about just the way the game went, the offense couldn't do anything past the first scripted drive. And that's been the case now almost 2 weeks in a row because they were driving again on Denver and Minshew threw that interception to Surtain and then taken to the house. But they've come out strong on the opening drive 2 weeks in a row, and then there's nothing after.
Yeah.
So, a lot of that is they can't run the ball effectively, but then some of it is, okay, Madison has been had proved on that first drive that he could get some things done and really help the Raiders offensively. And then Luke Getsy he's not even on the field for another quarter. And so I don't know. I know part of it's play calling. I know another part of it is the offensive line has not played well, but there's so much I think schematically that can be done. And from a planning standpoint, that can be done by him to make sure that offense does better than 7 points and a half.
Yeah, I don't think the offense improved at all with Aiden O'Connell. I know they scored on the opening drive, but it's reminiscent of John Gruden coming back in 2018.
Scoring on the Rams.
And him scheming up the first 15 and then having trouble the rest of the game. That's what it kind of reminds me of with Luke Getsy. And then defensively, they couldn't stop the run. Najee Harris, a Bay Area guy, ran all over the Raiders. That long touchdown run he had. And Justin Fields. I didn't even think about this while the game was going on, but he stuck it to his old offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy, I guess they didn't get along in Chicago. Justin Fields didn't like his approach to the game. Luke Getsy, I guess, was trying to get Justin Fields this offseason. Justin Fields did not want to go to the Raiders. So he sticks it to him. And by the way, I'll bring this up real quick. Justin Fields potentially getting benched this week already. Like I was wondering if it was going to happen this week because they lost 2 in a row and maybe, they think, okay, it's not sustainable with Justin Fields as quarterback. But the other news today, Russell Wilson getting first team reps and potentially getting the start against the Jets. I don't think that's fair at all. I think the Steelers have started 4-2. I think that Justin Fields is playing fairly well. I would be the first to admit I don't think that it's sustainable with him as quarterback and them scoring enough points. They may have a 2-quarterback system this week, which sounds insane. But I would wait for the Steelers to lose some games before I go back to Russell Wilson or go to Russell Wilson in the first place. I think that's kind of insane, to be completely honest.
I think it was inevitable that Russell Wilson was going to play for them. I actually thought he was going to be the starter, like last-minute starter or maybe very early inserted into the game on Sunday. It didn't happen, but it's going to happen now. Justin Fields, I think, has done a good job of guiding that ship, making sure they stay competitive, winning some games. But Mike Tomlin knows that they're going to need to pass for more than 200 yards in some of these games to be able to win. And Justin Fields, he wasn't able to do that Sunday. He did keep some plays alive, but he missed on a lot of throws too. And I think Tomlin is just like, okay, if Russ is ready, maybe we can stick with Fields versus the Raiders because the Raiders aren't very good. But once Russ is ready and we go into a better opponent, then we're going to have to go with him.
I totally get that, and I don't.
It's not fair though, because Fields. Sorry,
yeah,
Derek, it's not fair.
No, I mean having a 4-2 record to start the season and then you're benched, I'm like that seems unfair. It's not even guaranteed yet. Mike Tomlin said that Russell Wilson might be in line to start, so we'll see if that actually happens. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Justin Fields leaves a lot desired on the football field, and if he plays better opponents, then he could get rocked, like we saw in the Dallas game. They didn't put up enough offense to win that game, which they should have. Mm-hmm. But it's not guaranteed that Russell Wilson's going to give you more offensively because what we've seen with Denver, he is not the same player. So it's not guaranteed that he's going to come out there and just rip it. If you had a guaranteed thing and a better quarterback, I get it. But we have no idea what the hell we're getting with Russell Wilson with the Steelers. So I just find that move to be puzzling. But just to finish up on the Raider game, Alon, the Raiders are just not good enough right now. They're not. The Steelers are a better football team. They're better defensively. They're better offensively. The Raiders just leave a lot to be desired, and it's just tough. They don't look like a good football team. They don't look as nearly as good as last year. They're not in unison as they were a year ago. It's just not good right now.
No, it's not. And most of the pieces are still the same, minus Davante Adams now. Offensively, I'm saying. But, man, for whatever reason, they just can't get out of the mud, and they can't get out of their own way. Run blocking has to improve if they ever want to be competitive in any game this year. And it's very hard to look at games this year on the rest of the schedule and say, oh, that's a game they might be competitive in. It's just very difficult to see them. Even against the Rams, who are beaten and battered and not very good this year, how do you not give the advantage to the Rams? Of course the Rams have the advantage. But I don't know where it starts in terms of offensively. I want to say that, hey, the play caller could do a lot better and the planning could be a lot better on the offensive side of the ball. I think it's a travesty that you have Trey Tucker out there as your number one wide receiver and you don't dial up a single deep shot to him all game. And I know you're playing against the Steelers, but still, there's one thing Aiden O'Connell can do. He can throw the ball deep. You got to let him do it. And they did it. So we'll see. We'll see going forward just how much better or worse the offense can get. If the high watermark for the offense was against Baltimore in 1.5 quarters of play, that is a very scary thing for people who are going to go watch the Raiders play either in person or on TV, because there's going to be a lot of games where it's going to be the first half and you're going to see only 7 or 10 points up there. And that's just the world they're living in. And a lot of it has to do with the quarterback position. A lot of it has to do with the offensive play caller. But these are all things in the professional football league and NFL that you should be able to fix. Maybe not fix permanently, but at least change something up so you get some better results. And I thought they did that against Cleveland. They found ways to get the ball to receivers in creative ways and create some rushing yards that you normally don't see for the Raiders with end arounds and reverses and things like that. But you saw none of that on Sunday. So, until Luke Getsy can prove to me that he has something beyond that first 10 to 15 plays, I have no clue that or indication that they're going to be able to score 14 or even 21 points offensively.
Yeah, I mean, right now I would say the worst offenses in football are the Raiders and the Browns.
Yeah, and
I mean, think of anybody else. I don't know who's the lowest scoring team in football right now, but the Giants at sometimes have moments where they could put up some points. And there really was, I guess, only against the Seahawks and the Browns this year. But yeah, it's not looking good for the Raiders. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up with one of the worst records of football this year. I'm not going to say the worst, but the way that things went today with Davante being traded away, I wonder if this team finds the same unity that they found a year ago when they got away from Josh McDaniels. I doubt it at this point. It just doesn't feel like the same thing. It doesn't.
No, the circumstances are different. I will say this: it is going to benefit them that the distraction is now gone after lingering over them for 3 weeks. But that doesn't mean anything because we've seen the team come out and be relatively successful in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the game for those weeks, and then absolutely just fall apart after. They're not good right now at dealing with any kind of adversity in game. And that's a major issue. And you can't have Max Crosby every week have to go give a pep talk on the side, because after a while, you can only go to that so many times.
I know.
And people will tune out, even if it's him. So you need a quarterback and you need a coach, a head coach specifically, to really not yell at guys, but just to be like, come on, like, let's go. We can do this. So right now they have a talent problem. They have a lot of guys injured, and they have a quarterback problem. But they got a lot of problems.
Besides that, everything's great. Yeah,
besides that, everything's great. No, everything's not great. But if they can figure out a way, and maybe that's putting Luke Getsy up in the skybox so you can see from up above. If there's a way to score more than 14 points, that would be an improvement.
Or maybe it's just time to find a coach that is an offensive play caller that you can team up with a guy that may be your rookie quarterback next year. That's
true, but you're not gonna. You can't make. I don't think you can fire someone and see. You just can't. It's
no. I'm not saying fire. Like this is Antonio Pierce's job the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I don't see any benefit of firing him during the season, but you may have to make that call once the season is over to see how things went.
Yeah.
Moving on to the other games around the league and quick hits. Let's talk about that Jets and Bills game last night. It was sloppy as fuck. Even though it was a close, competitive game, the penalties were ridiculous. Over 200 yards of penalties, I believe. It may have been more than that. Just sloppy play. The 2 missed field goals. I mean, the Jets. We could make an argument the Jets should have won that game, but they lose 23-20 to the Bills. Bills were running really well without James Cook. Ray Davis with a very impressive performance. Aaron Rodgers, I thought the offense looked better than they did the previous week against the Minnesota Vikings with Todd Downey calling the plays. They get a touchdown with Garrett Wilson in the back of the end zone there. And then Aaron Rodgers looking like vintage, Aaron Rodgers. When he has time and the line protects for him, then he can rip it like the old days. He can't move around like he used to. Every time he gets hit, it's like, shit, is it going to be another Achilles tear? That's what I think every single time that he gets hit. Because that first time he got hit last year on the sack by Leonard Floyd, I was like, oh, that looked bad. And sure enough, he didn't come back up. This year, he's taken a lot of car crashes, and he's able to come up at 41 years old, soon to be 41 years old. But for whatever reason, at halftime, the Bills don't rush 4. They rush 2, and everybody goes back, and Aaron Rodgers is able to do his thing. They should just call it a Hail Rodgers at this point, in my opinion. Like when you think of Hail Mary, they made it that because of Roger Staubach. But Roger Staubach only had 1 famous Hail Mary in his career. Aaron Rodgers had 4 now. It's incredible. 2 in the playoffs, or it's actually 2 in the playoffs, and 1 last night. Another 1 in the regular season to beat the Lions. He throws one to Alan Lazard, and I was like, holy shit, the Jets might win this game now because of that. And they had momentum going into the second half. Big run by Breece Hall, but then injuries, killed them. There's a phantom holding call, like Aaron Rodgers called it. And the missed field goals killed them. So yeah, the Bills won the game. I thought the Jets may have been the better team last night, but and then the interception that Rodgers threw to Mike Williams, he did throw Mike Williams under the bus today or last night when he was like, he was supposed to run a go, and for whatever reason he ran a comebacker, and that's not what was supposed to be the play. It's also your job as a quarterback to kind of take the blame for things sometimes, but also I don't mind guys, kind of holding other people accountable. It's what you have to do as a leader. I think that was kind of a message he was sending to the other players that maybe Saleh has covered up for you guys in the past, and I'm not going to do that. Like he was mad about the whole cadence thing. So he's frustrated. I know that right after they traded for Davante Adams, then the reports come out that they're willing to trade Mike Williams. I don't think anybody's going to be willing to trade for Mike Williams right now. If I had to guess, he probably gets cut, and the Chargers pick him up again, or the Chiefs pick him up. And the fact that the Raiders, the Jets were trying to push off Mike Williams to the Raiders just because Tom Telesco knew him with the Chargers back in the day. I'm like, he's not the same player right now. But they could use him too. He could be a jump ball guy every now and then. But yeah, tough loss for the Jets. Good win for the Bills, but I thought it was a sloppy, disgusting, penalty-filled game.
I had fun watching it, except for all the penalties. And I was texting back and forth with you, Derek. I said, fun game to watch. You went, fun? Really? And I was like, let me rephrase that. Fun to see Aaron Rodgers look a little bit more like his normal self. That Hail Mary was incredible. It was hilarious as well because Joe Buck was like, here's the list of the ones he's already thrown. We'll see. And then it happens right on cue. It was like, oh, that's perfect. I thought that Ray Davis, his game just totally set the tone for the Bills, especially at the end of the game too. Some of those just gut-wrenching runs that he was able to pull off. They get backed up by a penalty. Well, guess what? He gets them back down to the 1 yard line. It doesn't matter. He was awesome. Allen played decent, a lot better than 9 for 30.
I'll say.
Yeah, I don't know. I think now, after seeing what I saw against the Jets with the Bills, that is, I'm very excited to see what Amari Cooper looks like with them.
Yep.
I don't know what the ceiling is on the Jets. It's very hard to tell. This could be the best version of them. I know they'll get better, obviously, with Davante Adams, but that may have been the best version of them that we see this season. I don't know how much more Aaron Rodgers can get back. His arm was electric. The throw that he had in the middle of the end zone when he was kind of moving to his left, and then he just slung it in there with a whole ton of velocity, and they scored a touchdown. It was I forget was it Wilson? Was Wilson who caught that?
The touchdown throw, yes.
Yeah, so he kind of left his feet and then dragged his feet and his knee in the end zone and made a great catch. But that was like vintage Rodgers. I was like, wow, he saw everything. So he was definitely seeing it. I just don't know how much of that he has left in him for every game, because it wasn't consistent throughout the whole game. And once again, they still can't protect him. They did a better job last night, but he's still under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and he even admitted that there was a roughing the passer call on A.J. Epinesa that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And there was also a lot of penalties on Javon Kinlaw that were ridiculous too. But, Bills get the win. Jets go to 2-4, but they got reinforcements in Davante Adams and maybe other guys. The London game, Bears win that one convincingly, 35-16. I thought that the Jaguars would find a groove winning last week against the Colts and then going to their home away from home in London, and they did not look comfortable at all. Caleb Williams looks really comfortable through 4 touchdown passes, finally connected with Keenan Allen. He's looking great at that offense now. Bears looking great defensively. The Jaguars just look lost. Gabe Davis does not look like a good pickup for them. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know what to make of him right now. He doesn't look like he's getting any better in that Doug Peterson offense. And you could say what you want about Trevor Lawrence not being a good quarterback. I think that there is a good quarterback in him. The potential hasn't come out yet. It's, to me, if this keeps going in the same direction that it's going right now, it's easy. They're keeping Trevor Lawrence. They invested $55 million a year to him. Doug Peterson will be fired, and they'll find a new offensive guy to help him out. And it may not be an offensive guy. There's going to be so many big-name coaches available this offseason that will be a very attractive job for somebody.
Yeah, someone's going to want to work with Trevor Lawrence. They've already backed up the Brinks truck for him. You can tell he has all the skills. He can do it. It's just that and he has some good, decent players around him too. But it's just, that structure around him is just not great. On the other side for Caleb Williams, I give myself a pat on the back because on the last podcast I said I think Caleb Williams is going to have the best game of his career so far. And he threw 4 touchdowns. I was expecting 300 yards passing, but 226 will get the job done. No, he was great. More of that from Caleb Williams, and that pick looks just better and better every single day.
And I want to pat yourself on the back too much, Alon, because even though you got this game right, you still lost in picks.
I know I did.
I know you did. Next time, though, because you're at the office right now, we'll get you doing hot sauce another time. Just keep that in the old memory bank for myself.
More Triscuits.
Oh God, yeah, you gotta switch it up. Do something different. Triscuits and hot sauce sounds disgusting. Jordan Love, his MVP campaign still might be alive, as even though he only he missed 2 games this season, he's second in the league right now for touchdown passes, tied with Joe Burrow at 12. And he looked great in this game. Won convincingly. He's got maybe the best receiving core in football right now when it comes to all the receivers he's got, from Christian Watson to Jaden Reed to who else is on this team?
We have Romeo.
Romeo Dobbs, who came back from the suspension, Dontavius Wicks, Bo Melton, just all these guys that eventually they'll have to pay. But, the scouting department for the Packers did a fantastic job finding these guys. And Brian Gutekunst, that GM. But, I thought that Jordan Love played a great game. The defense played pretty well. And he's definitely got more Favre in him than Rodgers, because on that touchdown throw where it was he's getting blitzed and he just threw a ball right up in the air and Romeo Dobbs makes the adjustment to make the touchdown. Kind of like the same throw he made against the Vikings that got picked off that ultimately lost him the game. But still, still a good throw, I guess. With him, there's going to be moments where you're like, oh my God, what a great throw. And there's like, oh my God, what the hell was that?
Yeah, no, he's got the arm talent to get it done. Something I love about the Packers this year, and once again in this game, they just seem like such a balanced team compared to so many other teams in the NFL. They don't really have to force their way one way on offensively, passing or running. They have, if they want to have a heavy running game, they can do that. And if they want to have a heavy passing game, they could do that as well. But they just keep things so balanced. I will say this: Romeo Doubs coming back, that was huge for them. I mean, he had a couple of touchdowns. I know he didn't go off yardage wise, but man, you're right about that receiving core. That is like a sneaky good, not sneaky good because we all know they're good, but like there's no true superstar there. It's just a bunch of dudes who can play. Yeah, no one's paid.
They're all homegrown talent and they're cheap, but they're all good. Speaking of wide receivers, the Eagles got 2 guys back for them that made them win that game against the Browns 20-16. A.J. Brown coming back and Davante Smith definitely helped them out. Not a explosive offensively, type of game for the Eagles. They still don't look quite the same as they did 2 years ago. They look sluggish. Jalen Hurts kind of looked a little sporadic at times, but made big plays with A.J. Brown, Davante Smith. The defense played better, but they were playing the Browns. So, not really impressive by the Eagles, and same old shit from the Browns. Nick Sirianni, after the game, when the game was in hand and him screaming at the fans on the sideline, I know he apologized and everything and said he needs to be better and focus on coaching. I mean, this comes after a week ago where he was asked, do you think you'll be fired the same way like Saleh was? And he's like, no, you can't focus on that. You got to focus on the games. Then learn from that, Nick. Like his reputation is so bad right now of being a guy that doesn't do anything, just a guy that screams and yells on the sideline, just being too Philly. Like sometimes, he kind of seems like an Italian meathead sometimes, where he's just what exactly does he do? He is he had to get coordinators to help him out, and then he gets so mad about what the fans are thinking about him. Like, oh, we won the game. You should focus on that. You beat the Browns by 4 points. Okay. But, I don't think he should be focused on, like, Philly fans are going to be upset about everything. So to take your time to yell back at them, like, it's one thing to yell at the Chiefs fans, but, like, then to go after your own fans, I think is ridiculous.
I don't get it. It's, to me, like, they could have a good season and or a decent season and people in Philly will be like, why is this guy our coach? Can we get a real professional in here who we can get mad at and is not going to bark back at us?
I'll ask you this. Oh, sorry. Go finish your thought, Alon.
I was going to say, inexcusable for them to be in a 4-point dogfight with the Browns. That's insane, especially with the game Deshaun Watson had. But I think it was so glaring that the Eagles could not run the ball. And they have an issue with that. And I know that Cleveland can be a good defensive front, but like, you're beating Cleveland by 4 points. This is not the same team that we knew 2 years ago. It's just not. And Jalen doesn't look the same. Not saying like, oh, he's a different player now, but he still doesn't look comfortable. What, 6 weeks, 7 weeks into the season?
No. Doesn't look comfortable at all, and he'll get bailed out by his big name wide receivers, but he doesn't look great. And neither I thought Jahan Dotson would help out with that receiving quarter with the slot guy, but he's not. He's doing barely nothing in that offense.
Yeah.
And now they don't have Dallas Goddard. He's Goddard. He's going to be out for a couple weeks with a hamstring injury. So, yeah, it doesn't look great for the Eagles right now. They won the game, but I wasn't impressed with them.
Well, and they were having the same tight end issue that I still think Buffalo is still having. We saw a little bit better tight end utilization out of them last night. But in Philly, I'm like, you got Goddard. Like, well, not now, but use him. He's an important weapon.
Let me ask you this, Alon. Which coach would you rather have? Kevin Stefanski or Nick Sirianni?
Ooh, that's tough.
I think that's easy, honestly.
I'd rather have Kevin Stefanski.
Yes, I think everybody would agree with that one
because he actually does something.
Yes, he calls plays, and I know that offensively the Browns are putrid, but I think that's 100% on Deshaun Watson. I do. I don't think it's the play calls. I think just Deshaun Watson just is not the same player, and it's not working with the scheme of Kevin Stefanski. And I'm tired of everyone. Like, I know that they have to ask this. Like, is Deshaun Watson still your quarterback? He's like, yes. He is being hung out to dry right now. Like, I know that Mary Kay Cabot, who's been following the Browns for a long time, straight up asked him, is the owner making you play Deshaun Watson? And he can't answer that truthfully, but we all know what the deal is. Yes. Yeah. He didn't want to make this deal. I don't think Andrew Berry wanted to make this deal. It sucks when your owner is meddling so much, Jimmy Haslam, where he wanted this guy and paid him, $300 million guaranteed, that now they're forced to play him. It sucks. And if they fire Kevin Stefanski, shame on them, because I think they have a good coach and they just may have ruined his reputation.
No, so the reason I was going to say maybe the one reason you could say Sirianni is at least it's not dysfunctional over there, but that's because that has nothing to do with him. The roster is already put in place. He doesn't have an owner that went and bought Deshaun Watson for $300 million for a good contract, there, a big, massive contract, and then instead it's just like, why did you buy that contract? Why did you do that? It looks horrible.
But it might be debatable that if it's dysfunctional or not, because I know Jalen Hurts was asked last week and he said, "Yeah, me and Nick are good right now." A lot has been made about their relationship and whether or not that's good. So I think Nick Sirianni is just feeling the pressure and feeling the heat of people questioning what he does with the football team, and he's a little too demonstrative. That was fine when the Eagles were 14-3 2 years ago, but now, because of the way their season ended a year ago and the way that it's looking so far this season, people think that he's kind of a clown. Whereas Stefanski's respected. He's won 2 Coach of the Years. He got Baker Mayfield to the playoffs. He got Joe Flacco to the playoffs, and it's just not working with Deshaun Watson. So yeah, I would rather have Kevin Stefanski over Nick Sirianni right now.
No, I would too, and purely because he does something at an elite level, and that is calling plays.
Yes, exactly. The Ravens beat the Commanders 30-23. The Ravens just look better offensively right now. I don't know about them defensively, though. They're not as, good defensively as they have been in years past. When you think of the Ravens, you always think of their defense, but right now they're just putting up the offense. But I got to give it to the Commanders, too. They weren't blown out in this game like I thought they were going to be. Jaden Daniels had some good throws, 2 touchdown throws to Terry McLaurin. He is the real deal right now. And they're maybe making that offense kind of simplistic for him, but it's working. So I even though the Ravens won the game, I came across pretty impressed by the Commanders.
I would have to look up the stats of RG3 when he came onto the scene for Washington, but man, this is like the same thing. They have a quarterback who's just electric, and they're going to keep winning ball games. I know they lost this one. The Ravens are just so much more of a talented team, and Derrick Henry is like back to old Derrick Henry. I mean, this little narrative that was going around, not even little. There were a lot of people, oh, does he still have it? What's it going to look like? He's not going to be able to carry the ball as much because Lamar's also going to run. Well, they found a pretty damn good balance there. He's still getting the ball 20 times a game or a little bit more, and he's just tearing defenses up. So they're a dangerous team offensively. I still think defensively they have shortcomings, especially against the pass. Their secondary is just not what it
Yeah.
has been, but they're good. But hey, the Commanders, talk about a team coming up. All it took them was one quarterback to make them relevant.
Yep. And now I think Terry McLaurin is so happy that he's finally got a good quarterback with him. He's making great catches. The only problem is them defensively. They do give up a little bit of points, but and it may get worse now because Jonathan Allen, their defensive tackle, is out for the season with a torn pec.
Roll Tide.
So, yeah, they may have a hard time stopping people.
Yeah.
The Texans beat up on the Patriots. The Texans are just a better football team. They put up 41 points. They missed having the running game in both Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce that made Cam Akers expendable. He got traded back to the Vikings today because I guess Aaron Jones is going to go on IR, so they need running back depth there. So, yeah, the Texans look like a great team in the AFC. I'll say this, though. Came away very impressed with Drake May. He makes the Patriots a better team, and that team is not very good, but he kept them in that game, threw 3 touchdown passes. Impressed by Drake May.
Yeah, I definitely the timing on him starting to get significant playing time and it makes sense. So good. They got to keep developing him, make sure they can protect him. I know he had a couple of picks, but the Patriots were never going to win this game. It's just not a fair fight.
Yeah.
The Texans are so much better than them. But if you're a Patriots fan or you just want to see Drake May develop and see how they're going to rebound after the Belichick era, promising sign, even though they just have the one victory this season, but you got to start somewhere.
Yep. Saints hang around with the Buccaneers for the first half, scored 24 points in the second quarter. Spencer Rattler was making some good throws. The defense was keeping him in that game, picking off Baker Mayfield 3 times in one quarter. But after that, the Buccaneers just pulled away. I got to give credit to the Buccaneers. I've been sleeping on them for quite a bit of time, but Baker Mayfield and that team is just putting up points. Not very good defensively this season. They suffered some injuries, but they're right up there in the NFC South, maybe in the NFC right now. They had a tough loss against the Falcons and at home against the Broncos, but scored 50 points. The first team to score 50 this season. So, yeah, Buccaneers looking really good right now, and Saints suffering since starting 2-0, 4 losses in a row right now. It's not going to get any better now with Derek Carr out and Spencer Rattler in there. Maybe he improves for them, but it's just tough right now.
I know the Buccaneers were the talk of the NFC South at least last season, and this season they're even better. I mean, what an investment they were able to make into Baker Mayfield for him to rebound and actually come out with a vengeance after being picked off that many times. I think it was in the second quarter, and it's just damn. What kind of grit does this guy have? So they're on a mission. The Saints look like they're falling apart, and especially now with no starting. Well, I mean, they have Rattler who started the game, but with no Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I think if that's a game Derek Carr plays in, it's not 51-27. If everything else stays the same. But I don't know. The Tampa Bay just has firepower. Baker Mayfield's going to light people up. He's going to shred you, and that's what he did to New Orleans. So
making it nicey.
Yeah, make me feel nicey. I don't know. I can't read Baker Mayfield. I don't get it. He's just a gunslinger.
He's a total gunslinger. I don't like that he had a comment on the Texas players putting the flag at the center of the field against OU, but whatever.
Well, they got boat-based.
Yeah, you just let it go, dude. You seem like the old guy that goes back to your alma mater. I remember when we played. It's dude, shut up. You're in the NFL right now. Focus on the Buccaneers. The Lions probably had the most impressive weekend, destroying the Cowboys 47-9. They did everything offensively. They could throw the football. They could run. David Montgomery got paid the night before and then runs all over the Cowboys. I loved how they were trying to run up the score with offensive linemen scoring. They tried so hard to get offensive linemen to score in that game. The hook and ladder to Penei Sewell was a beautiful play that was called back, which I was so mad they didn't score on that play. But, they put up 47 points. Cowboys don't score a touchdown. Dak Prescott had some horrendous throws, some bad interceptions in that game. All on Jerry Jones' 82nd birthday. And, God, did you hear Jerry Jones in his radio interview today?
Well, talked about firing the radio host.
God,
was that today or was that yesterday?
That was today. I would have loved it.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if any athlete or owner ever tried to pull that on our radio station, just be like, you think you can fire us? Just Jerry Jones being like, I don't pay you guys. I don't come on this radio station to be questioned. It's like, dude, shut up. Like, come on. Like you go at it like every owner doesn't do radio shows, but you want to, so you got to be able to take the criticism.
Yeah. No, it was. I read the headline this morning when I woke up because obviously I'm not listening to Dallas radio, and then I read the transcript and I went, "Oh my goodness, he is."
I'll find new guys to ask the questions for me.
Yeah, I'll find new guys. That team's broken. The Dallas Cowboys are broken. I did not see this coming. I didn't. Well, I thought Dallas would win the game. I was like, you know what? They're going to build off of after gutting one out against the Steelers. Nope, they get mollywopped. Dak Prescott could have had way more than 2 interceptions. I mean, it was not a good game for them. They couldn't do anything. The Lions, I was a little surprised they did kind of run up the score, but whatever. If they can't stop it, you keep doing it. Dallas is freaking broken. They need help.
Yeah, the Lions were out for blood after last year losing that game by 1 point in controversial fashion. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC right now, even with Aiden Hutchinson out for the season. That was a brutal injury. You never want to see that, especially for a player like him. He was leading the league in sacks, probably your leading candidate for NFL Defensive Player of the Year. And now they're without him, and that sucks. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move. Don't think it's going to be Max Crosby, but I think they need to find somebody to get on that defensive line. I would have said they needed to get anybody anybody anyway to line up with Aiden Hutchinson already. And now that they don't have him, it's just Marcus Davenport and other guys. They're going to need to make a move to get another pass rusher. Other just games from the weekend. We don't need to spend too much time on these, but Chargers, beat up on the Broncos 23-16. Good rebound game for the Broncos coming off 2 losses off the bye week. Bo Nix was playing well prior to that, kind of, but he got confused by the Chargers defense. Got better as the game went on, but Chargers, that was a big test for the Chargers. And in years past, I probably would have lost that game, but they come off the bye week. Harbaugh suffering a little heart thing on the sideline, but was able to come back in the game. That was unfortunate. But they end up winning that game. I think they're the second best team in the division right now in the AFC West. Kirk Cousins and the Falcons look like they're clicking on offense now. Put up 35 points against the Panthers. Not saying a lot against the Panthers, but you should, if you're going to be a good team, you need to go into Carolina and beat a division opponent up like that. And then lastly, Joe Flacco. Man, this is going to be a thing every year where he signs with a new team and is the backup and, slings it for that team and they win games. He was the better quarterback. I wonder about him going forward, if he should be the starting quarterback over Anthony Richardson. I would say yes, but who knows? And then Will Levis, just, he has good moments and he has bad moments. The Colts are just a better football team. The Titans are still learning.
Will Levis, this was reminiscent of some of the games he had in college as quarterback for Kentucky. He had, I think, a game against Tennessee or Florida, I can't remember, where he passed for under 100 yards, had multiple interceptions. I mean, I don't get it. How can you be a quarterback in today's NFL and not go over 100 yards? Insane. Only 95 yards. They're going to be looking for a new quarterback. There's no way they go forward with them. Well, it doesn't seem like the coach likes him very much. That's for sure.
He inherited him and doesn't seem like to be a fan.
So they might be wishing they still had Malik Willis.
I don't know about that. I think that Brian Callahan wants to, it'll be them and the Raiders looking for a quarterback next year.
Yeah. So
who knows? I mean, Will Levis could probably show some promise. He's so young. I don't want to say you got to move on from him, but that is the case when you inherit a quarterback and that coach did not draft him. So yeah, that could be the case. Before we get out of here, Alon, I want to get your thoughts on some college football games. Big weekend in college football. Great games, big matchups. Let's start with your team, Alabama, getting a 2-point win over South Carolina. Hey, a win is a win. A good rebound after the loss to Vandy. I will say, I thought South Carolina had a chance to win that game, and they forced a bad interception in the end zone to lose it.
Yeah, Damani was able to pick that off. Thank God that Kalen DeBoer would have been fired had they lost that game.
Oh, stop.
There would have been people saying he needed to get fired. There were people saying he needed to get fired after that.
I know, but come on, that's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But, I think that I kind of love feeding into the ridiculousness of that college, my alma mater. But, Yeah, we needed the win. South Carolina. I got Tennessee coming up, so hopefully we play the way we did against Wisconsin or the first half against Georgia. But fun weekend of games. I thought the Ohio State Oregon game totally didn't go the way I thought it would. I really thought Oregon was going to lose that game, and I thought Will Howard was doing a good job, but his decision to I get it that everything's happening at once, but you gotta know that with under 10 seconds left, if you scramble in the middle of the field, the game's probably over. And it was.
I thought that Dan Lanning did an incredible job of his delay of games that ran the clock off a little bit. It was very reminiscent of Mike Vrabel doing the same thing to Belichick in the AFC wildcard game years ago, which led to Will Howard having a really dumb decision. Yeah, he scrambles in the middle of the field and he runs out of time, and it's just a bonehead mistake. I didn't see a lot of this game. Actually went to go with Rick Tittle in Oakland to go see Mark Norman, one of my favorite comedians.
Hey-o.
Hilarious, great show. But saw the highlights, and yeah, it was a good back and forth battle between the two teams. A lot of offense, a lot of points. But yeah, in the end, Ryan Day loses another big game. So yeah, Oregon, yeah, big win in the Big Ten.
Yeah, classic Ryan Day, classic Ohio State under Ryan Day.
Yeah.
Rick Tittle's one of my favorite comedians too, so that must have been awesome.
Rick Tittle wishes he was a comedian.
Yeah, so it's you and Mark Norman watching Rick Tittle on stage.
God.
The other big game, I thought that was really, well, maybe not as big, but USC Penn State, that was a fun game as well. And watching that whole comeback effort, that drive, like, oh, that was good to watch.
So while I believe that was the same time that Texas and Oklahoma were playing.
Yes.
And this game was more competitive. So I enjoyed watching USC and Penn State on my other TV. And I watched the two quarterbacks. Who's USC's guy?
Miller Moss.
You know, he played a fairly good game. Drew Aller, pretty impressive. Don't know if he's going to be a first-round quarterback. You know, not very mobile, but he can go back and sling it. The guy that you came away impressed with was the tight end. What's his name?
Warren. Yeah, that guy.
Tyler Warren.
Tyler Warren. He is.
I believe it was 17 catches for 217 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he will probably be your first tight end taken off the board. And the play, he snaps the ball at center, goes out for a pass, and catches it in the end zone like Gronk style, like going up in the air. And it was a beautiful play. Beautiful. So yeah, I came across very impressed by Penn State to come back and win that game. Don't know how to feel about USC right now. I loved that Colin Cowherd was that like a fucking bowling alley and saw the score of the game and took a video of himself being like, a lot of people are going to owe me an apology come Monday. I was right about Lincoln Riley and USC. And then he totally ate shit the rest of the way and they lost that game. So very impressive by Penn State. Texas, look, I'm glad they're number one. I'm glad that they finally beat Oklahoma for the first time in a few years in resounding fashion, 34-3, kicked their ass. It was beautiful. I will say also, Oklahoma's quarterback could barely complete a pass. It was brutal to watch him. They probably should have made a quarterback switch. We'll see how Texas performs against Georgia. It's going to be a huge game. Can't wait for it. But a win is a win. You got to love when Texas beats Oklahoma. And then, yeah, LSU with an overtime win against Ole Miss. I thought this was a good quarterback duel between Garrett Nussmeier and Jackson Dart. And great touchdown throw to win the game. Didn't see a lot of this game, saw the highlights. But, yeah, that looked like a very fun game to watch.
Those are two guys who are going to be in the NFL. And, Lane Kiffin not able to get it done. So, Yeah, interesting. Ole Miss is Ole Miss still. But back to your school, Texas, I think they showed why they deserve to be number one, even if it was against Oklahoma, who has limited quarterback and Michael Hawkins. But, they did what they're supposed to do. And even better, in a huge rivalry game, to hold the team to 3 points, massive. They're the best team in the country right now. And I said that last week, and I'll say it again this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're undefeated, and, and I'll say we gladly for Texas. But I don't know if they played anybody to give them a real fight yet. So this will be a huge test against Georgia. And as you put it, Alon, you, me, we're texting about it. If Texas can run the football, I think they have a chance. If they can't, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, it's going to be a very competitive game if they can't run the football, because Georgia, if they can make you one-dimensional, then it's going to be very hard. Sark's up to the challenge, so even if they have to rely on passing, they should be able to get some things done. But
yeah,
without a running component, that's going to be a very difficult game.
All right. That's it tonight, everybody. We went through it all, and big day today. A lot of football news. Sorry, someone's just screaming in the streets underneath me. Oakland, baby. By the way, Mets and Dodgers tied up 1-1 in the NLCS, and the Yankees have a 2-0 lead in the ALCS. So if we get a Yankees-Dodgers World Series, that will be huge for baseball. I don't think the Bay Area will like that at all, but be very good for baseball. It'll be probably the highest-rated World Series in quite some time.
Oh, yeah. Everybody will be watching. Two biggest teams on both coasts, so...
Yeah, we'll see if that comes to fruition. Alon and I will be back on Friday night. Oh, yeah, everybody. A good Friday night. Just your opinion, man. Alon's got to go to a wedding Saturday afternoon, so me and him will do a show Friday night. Not going to do another Thursday night post-game show. Alon's going to call 2 soccer games Thursday night. So my man needs to get to work. So we will do Friday night. We will react to the Thursday night game, which I believe is Broncos-Saints. And before I get at it, before I forget, I always forget to do this. Let's pick that game real quick, Alon, as you owe me a punishment next time around. Although you don't need to take the hot sauce to the wedding venue. I'm not going to.
I'll find some hot sauce there. Someone will have some.
All right. Well, you know, I don't need to force you to do that. It is a Sean Payton homecoming as his Broncos come home to the Saints. Spencer Rattler getting the start again. It's a rookie quarterback duel between Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler. The Broncos are road favorites at 2.5, and the over/under is 37.5.
I like the under in this game, and give me the Saints to win the game. I just think, even though the Broncos look like the better team, especially right now with the Saints having Rattler as quarterback, I just think we're asking a little too much of the Broncos too fast. And it's going to be hard for them, I think, to go on the road and win that game.
I hear you. Just to be different, I could see the Saints winning this game, but just to be different and Sean Payton getting his revenge, I'll take the Broncos to win this game. And I'll go over on the 37.5.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So there you go. All right, everybody. We'll see you back on Friday night. Yeah, big weekend ahead of us. Huge college slate. All these new players, Amari Cooper and Davante Adams, making their debuts this weekend. We'll go over all the Week 7 games coming up on Friday. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. If you can, go check out Steven's reaction to Davante Adams' trade. He was doing a little wine tasting in Tuscany and was happy to do the video, but also wanted to gloat about how he was enjoying life in Tuscany, that lucky bastard. We'll see when he comes back. He may never come back. He's enjoying life with his new beautiful wife. Hey, that rhymed. All right, everybody. Thanks to everybody in the chat tonight. To the Ernies, to Otis Bird is the word, to Skills Report. What's up, Skills? You pretty much hung out the whole night. Nice. To fake Derek Papa, who I believe is tacky. Thanks, everybody in the chat tonight. We will see you on Friday night at 7:15. Alon, say what you always say, my friend.
Well, real quick, before I sign off, I just want to say it might be really bad right now with the Raiders, with Davante leaving and just all this chaos that's going on. But if you're a Raider fan, just stick with it. And one day it'll get better. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. The grass is greener on the other side. So just stay optimistic. And that's what I have to say. Mr. Davis, keep spending that money and let's lean on Tom Brady to make some of these decisions as well. So I believe in both you guys. Total shill right here. But anyway, some of you people might not like that I just said all that stuff. But hey, that's just your opinion, man.
Well done.